Ambassador Parthasarthi. Tomorrow, if there is as China moved into Galwan, India moved into protect its sovereign interests. So there would be those who would see it from the Chinese perspective. There would be those who would see it from the Indian perspective. I want to understand from the India perspective, how do we negotiate this going forward? Because we need to work both with the Western powers and, of course, our forever friend that is Russia.
The fact of the matter is, let's go into the first sentence of what Prime Minister Modi said to President Putin. He said, I know today's era is not an era of war. Now, that was not directed at Russia. It was almost a plea to all parties concerned to cool off and take the path of peace. Now, the fact of the matter about what is happening is that southern Ukraine, you must bear in mind, is primarily Russian population. And the Russians have had access to many of these ports, including Odessa, since the 18th century, of the days of the Tsars. So this is the outward access. The Russians therefore took Crimea in 2014. But when the Americans came in, what they signed with the President Zelensky in September last year was provocative. It was more or less encouraging Zelensky, who has his own visions of grandeur, to take on Russia toughly. If you read that agreement, it speaks for itself. I don't have to say anything. It was a provocative agreement.
Yeah.
Now, the Russians intervened. I think, in fairness, what they had not banked on was the extent of US and European support which would pour in. They have responded. And Europe, Western Europe may soon find itself freezing, especially countries like Germany, without Russian natural gas come winter. So that is why the Prime Minister's advice, God's sake, sit down and find an agreement. Don't shout at each other. And that can only be done by dialogue. Now, coming to the problem itself at present, I think they have taken 4 cities in the south, 4 provinces in the south, but the most important were Luhansk and Donetsk and 2 others. But now they have direct access to Crimea, to the sea where their fleet is located. You cannot deny Russia, even under any international order, access to the sea which it has enjoyed for centuries, and certainly through the Soviet era. So I go back to what Prime Minister Modi said. The Americans are enjoying this. It's Russian and Ukrainian lives, and they are sitting back and pouring in some money. The Europeans are now getting worried because they are going to face sanctions. So the best solution is for them to sit on a table, guarantee the Russians access to to Crimea. In fact, when I was there in Moscow, we used to have almost guaranteed access to Ukraine, the ports there. So I think there is no solution to this. The Russians will dig their heels in. Unfortunately, lots of lives will be lost. The Western media will scream. The Russians will naturally be self-righteous. But the answer is dialogue. And the answer would have to be that Russia, whether it takes over or not, is different. Because they have taken over largely areas with a large Russian population. But the answer lies in finding a solution which prevents Ukraine and those who encourage it from stopping their access to the sea. Their whole existence depends on that.
No, absolutely. And somewhere that's the big threat to sovereignty. You talked about that agreement in September between Joe Biden and Vladimir Zelensky, or America and Ukraine, which actually said it's a strategic security partnership. Quite literally, it gave access for American warships in the guise of military exercises to come into the Black Sea. If you were to understand and do I interpret it wrong? Now, did that force Mr. President Putin's hand, or was there another way to go about it? 219 days of war. Did Russia want something like this, the extent to which this conflict has stretched? These are questions that remain. I just want to quickly put out the India view before we go back to Dr. Sergey. Now, this is what the Russia-Ukraine war, it is India's stand. 16th of September, Prime Minister Modi told President Putin at the SCO, today's era is not a war. We just had Ambassador Parthasarathi mention that. France and US backing India. We had the External Affairs Minister Subramaniam Jaishankar at UN saying, matter of profound concern for the world. Stop hostilities, return to dialogue and diplomacy. No justification for violation of human rights and international law. There's a need for independent and objective investigations. Now, this is what India's point of view is, because human beings, civilians, innocents are caught in the crossfire. So, Dr. Sergey, does that not weigh upon Russia?
First of all, I want to say that if you have a good memory, not short memory, you can understand how many jewels, how many stones on the crown of the Queen Elizabeth was stolen from Indian treasures. And right now we can see that India becomes the fifth economy, and right now United Kingdom becomes the sixth economy of the world. It's a karma, if you believe to karma, come back to the United Kingdom and to the eastern, to the western part of the world right now. We can see is a lot of challengers, not to Russia, to Western countries. That's why that they're fighting Ukraine. Ukraine is not a question about a conflict between Russia and Ukraine. You know this very well. You know who is the partnership. The most beneficial country right now in the world who take a lot of benefits from this conflict, of course, United States of America. But Europe is completely destroyed, and United Kingdom also. You know this very well. You can see what happened with the pounds, with the currency of United Kingdom. Right now, I completely agree with the previous speaker that only one way is sit to the table and make good negotiations with a peacemaking dialogue together. But in this case, the role of the mission, we can say, of India, India can be the peacemaker, the global peacemaker. India can support UK even, support Europe, because Europe and UK, like right now, are suffering a lot because of the energy crisis, because of the destruction of the economy, everything. I can see that Mr. Modi, he's a very wisdom guy. He's following to the traditions, he's doing yoga. He is like a spiritual leader of the world. He can propose to all European leaders, to UK leaders, make a strongly negotiation to sit to the table. And right now, all Russian lands.
So, but is Russia ready to sit?
Not annexed. I completely believe to the peacemaking conversation, peacemaking dialogue.
Is Russia ready to sit at the dialogue table? Russia, see, the whole story is that it's Russia that's pushing the conflict. Is that true? Or is Russia sitting open to sitting at the table and sorting this out?
Right now,
Yes, Mr. Dvoryanov. Dr. Dvoryanov, can you hear me?
In current situation, yes, Russia bring all this our lands and protect our Russian population on the eastern part of Ukraine. Now we are happy to protect our population. We are ready for the conversation. We are ready to dialogue. But dialogue cannot be happened without the participation of other countries. If India sincerely will help to Europe, will help to Russia, we can bring peace to the Europe. I completely believe to this, and that role of India right now is the most important role. I believe that Narendra Modi, like a spiritual leader, can bring peace to the Europe. I believe to this.